Hello friends, here with the Lonesome Gamer, and I'm playing 1869. And we are in phase, well technically in phase 7. The first 7 train is already purchased. We're in the brown phase, and well, you can see here a couple of brown tiles have already been placed. And a few permanent trains were already purchased. We see here a 5E, the 6E. Of course the 5s are already permanent too, so, and even the 4E, look at that. So yeah, a lot of companies are already holding permanent trains. Just a few are still sitting on their 4 train. There are also a few trainless companies. The Kansas Pacific, the Oregon Navigation. Yeah, these 2 companies are without a train, and I'm pretty sure they're going to go into receivership in the next stock round. But right now we go in operating round 3 of that set, and yeah, the Canadian will kick things off. So the Canadian, and basically all these northern companies here, they have to still build a route here to the Pacific, Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and these are now pretty heavy terrain costs. We got 160, another 160, and then here 120, 110, 140. So these guys partly swallowed and try to get together the money for another train or so, but it looks like in the end they're going to basically use that to build this route here. And for this player it's especially useful to do that because he controls 2 of these companies that want to end up there in these northwestern region here. So yeah, it seems like they got to spend all that money here. And look at that, we don't even have no straight cities more, so I guess we gotta come up with something like that. I mean, it's not that, oh no, that's not even a city, so that's okay. We can simply take this and place it like that, and then in the next round, maybe in the next OR of this company, we already be in Vancouver, and that will give them then $280 as a bonus, which is of course awesome. So next, the Southern Pacific will operate. They have exactly $100 left to build a route to LA. So there we go. And let me see if there's, I don't think there's anything special there, but sometimes you want to check it. But I think it's more for the upgrades. Yeah, here you can use any yellow, but then a 90 green and an 81 brown. The cities sometimes have sometimes have predetermined upgrade paths, so you got to check that from time to time. It's not always intuitive here. So this is an important one because this now gives me here a connection between New Orleans and LA, and I get $400 bonus if I can make a run and connect these 2 cities. So we got a 4 train and a 5E. So let's see, the 4 goes 1, 2, 3, 4 to Salt Lake City, and then the 5E can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So indeed we have our connection, and that's going to be probably a massive run. So it's 20, 60, 90, that's twice, so it's going to be 150, 160, 180, 260, and then an additional 400, so that's 660. Now we do have the option to treat the bonus separately. So we can keep the bonus in the Southern Pacific and pay out only the revenue from the route. And it might be even possible to keep parts of the bonus. I'm not totally sure about that. I got to check that. So we could, I guess we can actually keep something like $200 in here and pay out, let's say 460 or something. So I am pretty close to my share limit here. I hold, I think, 15 certificates. So I can only buy 2 more, which means I don't terribly need that much money in the next stock round. So it might be actually a good idea to invest a little more in the company. So I guess I might actually keep $400 in here. If I do this another time, I will be able to buy a second train. So yeah, I guess I'm going to go for that. So that means I pay out only $260, but that's fine. Yeah, just check that again, and it is actually possible. You can treat the bonus totally separately from the standard revenue. You can pay it out together with the revenue. You can simply split it, or you can simply pay out parts of the bonus together with the revenue. So let's take a look at the Union Pacific. They also have an incredible run here. Just checking what I want to upgrade. Let me see, maybe I could upgrade actually this one, I guess. Or is that San Francisco? That might be San Francisco. Let's take a look. It's 80. That's number 80. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so yeah, I get a bonus if I make it from San Francisco to Omaha, back here. So that means I have also here a massive run. That's 50, 80, 110, 150. In addition, I have a 7 train now, which means I can go 180, 250, 270, 350, 360, 380, 410. That is a huge run, and I get a bonus of 60. So in the end, it's 470, and I own 90% of the company. That is crazy. Of course I'm going to pay that out, and it's just insane. Actually, with the Southern Pacific, I just came back to that because I operated the Denver and Rio Grande, and I realized I made a pretty bad mistake there, and I make a lot of breaks between my sessions, and basically can just play an hour or so per day, and it takes much longer. So in the end, I realized that I can operate only a 4 train reasonably with the DRG. I can basically run the 4 train from here exactly to here, and here I'm basically trapped. I cannot go outside here. I cannot get that connection to El Paso because I kind of trapped myself here. That was just a stupid idea to move out like this, and you cannot upgrade this anymore. So all I could do is I could run that train here, the 6th train. I could run them between the 2 cities, and that obviously sucks. So what I did is I bought the Southern Pacific for $5, the 6th train, and they can have 3 trains. They have +1 on their train limit, so I think that helps them a lot. And yeah, just gonna allow them to do that because between my sessions is sometimes such a break, so that I simply forget what I wanted to do. So I'm gonna give them that advantage. You know what? I guess I'm not gonna buy the 6th train over, but the 4 train instead. Because the Southern Pacific also has a little bit of a problem to run all these trains. Do they? That's a tough call. Maybe not. I mean, they could run one, two, three, four, five, 6. They could run the 6th train here, the 4 train here, but then they got a 5E, and that's kind of a waste to run that here. So I think I want to run the 5E down here and then run the 4 train here, and I'm going to let the Texas Pacific, the 6th train, and they're going to build on a route here to Chicago, and then they can run this one. Okay, I think that's how I want to do it. If someone buys a diesel, the Southern is not in the best shape. They're going to lose 2 4 trains. But there's, on the other hand, a bit of money in here, and if I get one more of this bonus, of these bonuses, then I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna have the money to buy a good train, and yeah, it's gonna be okay then. So the Canadian National, they laid a city tile here in Vancouver for 120, and then they paid another 20. Wait a second. No, another 40. Yeah, they paid overall 160 to lay a token here. They want to have a token there because there is a chance otherwise that the Canadian Pacific and the Northern Pacific both make an upgrade here, and then they could block this. And that would really suck because it's super expensive to buy around that. It costs 320 to kind of go around that. And that's something they definitely wanted to avoid. And in this way they can be safe. It's not so bad to go around here, but they definitely have to make sure that they can actually that nobody can block them here. So that's why they did that. And now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have a connection from Montreal to Vancouver. So we got that 60, 90, 160, and we get an additional 120 bonus. So it's 280. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so we go now into the next stock round. Done with the operating round. We have now, at the beginning of the stock round, this guy over here. Damn it. This guy here, he has a ton of money now. He did remarkably well. The Union Pacific is such a strong company now, and with his 90%, he makes really a ton of money. He has more than $1,000. That easily brings him to the certificate limit. Basically now I think everybody can get to the certificate limit. I'm not sure about him. He might be sitting on 400 or 500, and I think he might not get there. Everybody else has the money to make it to the certificate limit. We have two trainless companies, the Oregon Railway and the Kansas Pacific. They will go into receivership. That's already pretty sure. The presidencies will get sold, and yeah, then they go into receivership. What else is out there? Well, we have the Canadian Pacific, great share, but terribly expensive. It's about 260 or something, but it's a very good share. Union Pacific is out there for 134. And well, we got a lot of shares of the Northern Pacific, which isn't doing that bad. They have quite a bit of money in here, and they can make their bonus run if they don't get bigger problems with that token there. I mean, they can upgrade this, but then someone else might be able to kind of jump in there. But maybe we can do some kind of agreement with the other players. I mean, he already holds two of the northern companies, the Canadian, the Canadian Pacific, the Northern Pacific. The National already sits in there. So basically we have only the Great Northern, which might be interested in throwing a token in there. But yeah, maybe we can just make a deal with them, and in this way everybody is a winner here. So we have a couple of shares of the Great Northern. Denver and Rio Grande, which isn't doing great. Texas Pacific is okay. We'll see. I mean, most of the shares that are still available are 10% shares. And well, we'll find out what's happening here. Okay, so we're done with the stock round. Not everyone managed to get to the certificate limit. This player here is one share below, and this guy here is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, they both are one share or one certificate below the limit, but they simply don't have the money to buy any more stuff. Of course, the players who went, I mean, maybe he wants to sell the Kansas Pacific share. That won't make any money. On the other hand, if he holds priority, he could buy the presidency next turn, and that gives him then access to the new money which will be generated in these next 3 ORs. So maybe that isn't so bad. I mean, this thing isn't worth a lot anyway. It sits now at, I think, about 45 per share, so he would get $90 of that. I think maybe that's a good idea to keep that. That, as I said, that gives him priority, which is pretty good. Okay, apart from that, what's interesting, well, this guy over here, he bought a lot of shares, but he has still nearly $1,000 left. So he's in a very, very good shape. This guy also sits, well, not quite there. He's also about $1,000. But right now it looks, and I didn't really expect that this guy is pretty much in the lead. That might change when the 4 train gets, the diesel gets purchased and the Union Pacific loses their 4 train. We'll see if he can compensate that, or how he can compensate that. Okay, so let's go into the next set of Rs. So we've seen a couple of big runs. The Canadian was close to 500. They paid out. The guy holds, I don't know, 80% or something, or 70%, I guess. He made a lot of money. The southern was about at 400 something. They could have added the 400 from the bonus. That would have brought them to a massive run. But they kept the bonus, so they are now at 700, nearly close to 800 in the treasury, which will give them an easy option to buy a train. And we have the Union Pacific also had a massive run, over 500. They swallowed. They also wanted money. The Union Pacific, we now have a connection here, and they could basically run from here and then from south here all the way here up to Montreal. And that includes the bonus from San Francisco to Omaha, because the two trains meet here, and one comes from this side, the other one goes here. So that's also a lot of money that came into the company that way. And the ATSF, they're trying to make their way in here because they want to get to El Paso. That's where their bonus lies. But that tile was gone, so they did this and hoping to upgrade this into something like that in the next turn. And then they eventually will get their bonus. So the Northern Pacific ran for 190. They got the 4E train, which is really cool. They can start in Chicago all the way here. Now they want to go to Seattle. That gives them a good bonus of another 150. But what they're going to do is they swallowed, and the president, the captain I wanted to say, the president will help them. He will contribute a bit of money to buy a 7 train, because then they can run from Chicago to Seattle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then they could run the 4 Express somehow from Montreal here through Chicago into the south. That's going to be a super strong run. They definitely want to do that. So they're going to buy another train here. So just a short observation, while companies are making their runs and generating obviously more and more money, you can see that we have more and more brown cities now. But you know, we got here the Western Pacific. That ran only for 210, which is really not as good as some other companies are running. You know, you see these runs for 400 or 500. On the other hand, I mean, this guy holds 40% in 2 certificates. So that's the point here. He makes with 2 certificates basically the money that other people make of 4 certificates. So if it comes to the limits, because of the certificate limit, this is actually a good company. And in addition to that, you get a rising share value. So it's not as bad as it looks. And this one here too, a 30% certificate. Of course, the 10% certificate of that one are definitely not exactly what you're aiming for. So now we come to the companies in receivership, the Kansas Pacific and the Oregon. And the way that works, usually the banker controls these companies. And the banker would be, in this case, I assigned the bank to this guy here. But if there is a player who does not hold the presidency of a company, then that player will control the companies instead. And if there are more than one, then the banker can determine which of the players will do it. But that's not the case here, so it's the banker again. And basically what that means is the companies cannot do any expenses, and they will not even buy a train. In some games that's the case. They simply buy a train as soon as they can do it, but that's not going to happen here. They're not going to expend any money. what they're going to do is, though, they're going to borrow a train, and it's going to be the cheapest available train. So in this case, they're going to borrow the 6th train. They're going to run that train. They're going to swallow, and then they're going to pay 10 for that train. And that's basically it. If a company should be isolated like this here, so they can do nothing, right? They cannot even lay terrain here. In this case, they're going to receive 50 bucks. They always going to receive 50 bucks. That's the minimum. But they're still stuck here because they're not allowed to lay terrain. So that company will basically get 3 times 50 bucks, and that's it. I doubt that anyone will be interested in buying this. But that might be kind of an interest. I mean, they can run the 6th train here. They can Chicago, wherever. And so, yeah, maybe that's could become an attractive company at some point. So we are in the 2nd operating round, and the Southern Pacific makes a massive run, 550. The 4 train goes here, the 5 train goes down there, the 5E goes down here, and the other 4 train goes this way here. So that's 550 bucks. And in addition, we get a bonus of 400, so we're making 950. Now, granted, you kind of have to divide that. Here we have only 5%. We have a couple of only 5% shares, but still, this is massive. And yeah, we're going to cash in. So the Union Pacific is running for 550. They got a 4 and a 7 train, and they're going here with their 4 train. That gives them the bonus of 60, and the 7 train goes like this through Chicago right here. They can actually improve this in the next turn. They can go like this, I guess. Although I'm not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not quite as good. 6. Well, I'm gonna find a way. I think this is the best they get for now. Might even be able to improve that. Yeah, I think I can. Then they run for 560. And that is definitely very good. And the crazy part is that this guy holds 90%. So he nearly makes, well, I don't know, something like 500 with this single run for his personal cash. So the ATSF, they did an upgrade here, trying to break in here and then make the way down here to Santa Fe and El Paso, because both of these cities give them a bonus. Now that makes it a little more interesting now also for the Denver and Rio Grande, because maybe they can make some kind of connection from here to here, then go in here, and then there's a connection between Denver and El Paso, which gives them an additional 50 bucks. So yeah, that's interesting for both companies. So the ATSF now also managed to get a pretty good run. The 4E goes through here, right there, and the 4 moves from here also through Chicago and then north up to Montreal. Now that gives him 410. In addition, he gets 30 for the connections to St. Louis and Kansas, which brings him to 440. Now if he manages to do this next connection here to Santa Fe and El Paso, he gets another 100. And then this is a fantastic line. And he holds also 80% of that. So that's pretty promising. So the Northern Pacific has now 2 trains. They bought the 7 train in their last OR, and they made a connection now to Seattle, so they can run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to Chicago. And in addition to that, they can run from Montreal down here a second time through Chicago until they come to this town here. Overall, that's a 480 run, and they get a bonus of 150, so that brings them to, gosh, 530, 630, and that's a lot of money, and this guy is holding 50%, and he's paying that out. I'm gonna do it after, I don't know, I think I play these games now for 3 years, probably about 150 games or something. It's the first time I'm going to lay this tile. And actually, yeah, I'm going to place that here. It's one of these really crazy ones. Goes here, hoping to connect here the Denver and Rio Grande. If I can make the connection here, go through there, make a connection here to Denver, and the other guy will make this connection, I can make my way to El Paso, run the 6 train, and get the bonus for the connection here. So at the end of the second OR, we see a lot of money in the Kansas Pacific now, $600. They're going to make one more run in receivership, which brings them then to, I don't know, I guess close to 900, which would be nearly a D train. It costs 950. Now, the situation is that nobody is eager to buy that D train and to rust the last the last non-permanent trains. This guy, he's sitting on a 4 train here, and he simply does not have the money to buy a D train, and he doesn't want one. He's totally fine with the Union Pacific, what he's doing. Here, the Canadian has a good amount of money, but they also own a 4 train, and they're doing fine. This guy does not have the money. This guy here has the money, but he's not interested. He owns 2 4 trains. And over here we also have $500, which is fine, but we also have a 4 train here. So, and nobody gets into too much trouble if the 4 trains should rust right away. I mean, the Southern Pacific would be hurt the most, but they can then easily buy a D train. So in the end, there is no real need to hurt someone or to get more. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, if someone wants another train, they probably won't go for the D train, but rather for the 6 or for the 8 or something. So I don't know. It might become interesting if the Kansas Pacific comes into play, because that will go to the owner of the Western Pacific, and he might then consider doing that, shake things up a little bit, maybe buy a D train, and, well, then we'll see. Maybe that will change the game a little more. So, massive improvement for the Union Pacific. They laid a tile here in San Diego, and they can now run the 7 train from San Diego all the way up here to Chicago, and then they got a 4 train which they can run from Winnipeg over Montreal also to Chicago. That gives them a ton of money. 630 is the run. And then it's the ATSF, and they finally managed to make the connection here, so they can now run from Chicago over St. Louis, Santa Fe, and El Paso. That gives them a bonus of 130 because they can add these 3 bonuses. And this ability goes now away because of this. This is limited to the point when they can add all 3 bonuses, the extra tile action. And that will give them now definitely a good run, something about 440, I guess. Okay, I just recalculated that, and actually they're making 560. This guy holding 80%. So yeah, many players now really piling up tons of money here. Okay, so I'm done with this set of ORs. Well, basically, we're in the end game. Everybody's just cashing in, and every other game would be over by now. But we're talking about a bank of 36,000. I mean, this is just sick, and there's still a lot of money here. So I guess we definitely go for another set. Maybe longer, but I don't think so, to be honest. I think it might be over the next set. We might see some changes with the trains. This guy has now a lot of money here, close to $1,000. He will probably buy a diesel to crash the other E-trains, which will bring a little bit of change into the game. A little more money might go into the bank pool. So, well, if it's getting really extreme, we might see 2 more sets, but we'll see about that. I mean, player-wise, this guy, he's doing amazingly good with his Union Pacific. He's bringing in so much money and also holding 50% of the Canadian National. He's sitting at, I don't know, 3,000 or something. He's about 1.5. This guy is also about 3,000. The Southern Pacific is doing well. He managed to get the Denver and Rio Grande also really strong. And they bought a train over here, so they can run now even 2 trains. And of course, this guy is also doing great here. He's also sitting at about 3,000. The ATSF is doing great, but yeah, well, I guess they can also afford a new train. The train won't immediately rust, so they might have to do a single swallow or something. But in the end, that can make the difference, of course. Okay, so guess we're gonna have to do one more video, and hope to see you then, or on lonesomegamer.com. Bye.